going to learn about another protozoan disease, amoebic dysentery or amoebiasis. Last day, we have learned about the protozoan disease malaria caused by Plasmodium. Today, we shall discuss about the amoebic dysentery. The causal organism is a protozoa known as Entamoeba histolytica. The different parts, as usual, we are going to discuss about the different parts, symptoms and the modes of transmission. Parts affected include large intestine. The different regions of the large intestine includes the outermost layer, serosa layer, then the submucosa layer, etc. Entamoeba histolytica affects the mucosal and submucosal layers. The symptoms when this pathogen enter the human body, the different symptoms that appear includes constipation, abdominal pain and cramps. Stools will be having excess mucus with blood clots, and in severe infection, the parasite enter other organs through the bloodstream, and it may affect organs such as liver, lungs, brain, etc. and produce lesions, abdominal lesions, and also other organ walls get affected. Now moving to the modes of transmission. Here, the mode of transmission includes the contaminated food and water because they get infected with the fecal matter that contains the cyst of Entamoeba histolytica. Here, the vector, house flies, they act as a mechanical carriers to transmit the parasite from feces of infected person to food and food products. Now we can learn more about the life history of Entamoeba histolytica. You have to remember the modes of transmission, symptoms, parts affected, and the name of the causal organism of amoebic dysentery. In addition, for your knowledge, you can refer this slide regarding the life history of Entamoeba histolytica. Amoebic dysentery or amoebiasis is a parasitic infection caused by the protozoan Entamoeba histolytica, and it affects the large intestine. Discussing about the Entamoeba, it's a monogenetic parasite. That means it needs only a single host to complete its life cycle. Unfortunately, that single host, the human being or man itself. Different infectious forms or morphological forms of the parasite include the quadrinucleate cyst. These are the most infectious forms of the parasite. And another morphological form, that is a trophozoite phase of the parasite. It is responsible for producing the characteristic lesions of amoebiasis. The different morphological forms of Entamoeba. There are three different forms of Entamoeba, that is the trophozoite stage, the pre-cystic stage and the cystic stage. Now about the trophozoite stage, you can see the diagram of a trophozoite stage here. It is known as the feeding or growing stage of the parasite. The ectoplasm is very clear and transparent. The inner endoplasm contains nucleus, food vacuoles, erythrocytes, tissue debris. This trophozoite stage, it's the most active and motile stage of Entamoeba. It shows typical amoeboid motility by pseudopodia. Another morphological form of the parasite is the pre-cystic stage. The trophozoite undergo encystment in the lumen. That means it gets an outer covering or a cyst stage is formed. Before this cyst formation, the trophozoite extrudes its food vacuoles and become round or oval shaped structure known as the pre-cystic stage. The pre-cyst contains a large glycogen vacuole and two chromatid buds. It then secretes a highly retractile cyst wall and becomes the next stage, that is known as the cystic stage. The cystic stage of amoeba, you can have a look on the cystic stage here. In the cystic stage, the cytoplasm is clear. It contains the chromatid buds. Two chromatid buds are here, and it also contains nucleus. Initially, the cyst contains a single nucleus, that is, it is uninucleated. Soon the nuclei starts binary fission. It becomes binucleated stage, and then it becomes the quadrinucleated stage. And the quadrinucleated stage is the most infectious form of Entamoeba histolytica. Hope, children, you have understood the Entamoeba histolytica life history and amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery. Now, let's move on to the next infectious disease, Ascariasis. You all are familiar with Ascariasis or Ascaris lumbricoides. Ascariasis is another parasitic infection caused by a helminth or a worm known as Ascaris lumbricoides. This Ascaris affects the human intestine, that is a part affected initially. Later, this parasite migrates to liver, lungs and other organs by piercing intestine. Now about the symptoms of the disease. In most cases, there are symptoms such as fever, anemia, muscular pain, internal bleeding, and sometimes intestinal blockage occurs. In such cases, the person or the individual will be having a feeling of nausea and vomiting, and cough also will be there. These are the symptoms. Now about the modes of transmission of Ascaris. It can be transmitted through contaminated soil, water and plants because they get infected with the eggs of the parasite that are excreted along with the feces of the infected person. Flies and cockroaches, they act as mechanical carriers to carry these eggs from soil towards the food and food particles. About the morphology of the parasite Ascaris. This Ascaris is a nematode or the largest nematode that parasitize the small intestine, mainly the jejunum part and the ileum part of the intestine. It is more common in children than in adults. It is a monogenetic parasite, needs only a single host to complete its life cycle. Again, unfortunately, that single host are human beings. About the morphology of the parasite, you can have a look on the diagram provided here about the Ascaris. Sexes are separate, the male Ascaris and female, both male and female Ascaris are present. The male Ascaris is shorter than the female one, and also the male Ascaris is having a curved posterior end where the pineal setae is present. So we can easily distinguish the male and female Ascaris. And that phenomenon, do you remember that phenomenon? The first year class you have learned about the phenomenon that helps in the distinction of male and female based on their external features. What is that known as? This sexual dimorphism. Infection of Ascaris occurs from the food particles that get infected with the fertilized egg of the parasite, because the fertilized egg will be having the larvae. infective larvae is present within the egg. When you are playing outside or when you touch the soil, when you come in contact with the soil particles, that eggs get stick on to your nails or hand. So before having your food, you have to wash your hands properly. Otherwise, it will be consumed, or you will come in contact with the fertilized eggs, which is having the larvae of the Ascaris. When it enters the human body, straight away it reaches the stomach region and move on to the next part, that is the stomach, from the stomach towards the small intestine. It reaches the duodenum, then it penetrates, that is the worm, that is the larvae present within the fertilized egg. It start piercing the abdominal wall and migrate, get into the bloodstream and migrate to other organs. And other organs, it reach liver, heart, and finally reaches the lungs. Within the lungs, the lung alveoli get affected. From the lung alveoli, they move to the tracheal region. During cough, or when the person cough, the particles, the larvae are again consumed or ingested into the stomach region. From there, before that, one more thing to mention, that is 14 days, about 14 days, they require to migrate to trachea. From there, they are swallowed to the stomach region. Within the stomach region, from the stomach region, they reach the small intestine, where the male and the female Ascaris attain sexual maturity. And the females produces fertilized eggs. These fertilized eggs are released into the environment along with the feces of the host. Likewise, the life cycle continues. It again contaminates the soil, food particles, etc. and enter the human body. Similar to all other infectious diseases, here also we shall discuss about the preventive measures or prophylaxis. It is the best preventive measure is keeping a very good hygiene. Then wash your hands with soap and water before handling food. Also, wash or peel raw vegetables and fruits before eating. And the last one, maintain a public hygiene and good sanitation. These are the preventive measures. And you might have heard about the proverb, prevention is better than cure. And how can we control the transmission of this infectious disease? Periodic mass treatment of children with single doses of albendazole. Albendazole tablets can be provided. And the treatment also, both adults and children, can be given a single dose of 400 mg albendazole tablet that helps to treat the Ascariasis disease. Hope it's clear about Ascariasis. Now we shall move on to the next topic, that is filariasis, another infectious and dreadful disease. Filariasis, also known as elephantiasis. When you go through the diagram, you will get an idea why we are calling it as elephantiasis. See, I have shown the lower limb of an infected person, which appears like that of an elephant. Now we shall discuss about the causal organism, mode of transmission and the parts affected. The causal organism is another helminth, that is a filarial worm. There are two different species of the filarial worm. The first one, the scientific name, the common name is Filaria, filarial worm. Scientific name of the filarial worm, Wuchereria bancrofti. That is one species. Another one, Wuchereria malayi. These are the two different species of the filarial worm that causes filariasis or elephantiasis. And the different regions affected by this filarial worm. The lower lymphatic vessels usually gets affected. And I told you the lymphatic vessels get affected, so there will be accumulation of the lymphatic fluid that causes enlargement or swelling of the affected regions. The symptoms. Let us familiarize the symptoms of the disease. Chronic inflammation of affected organs occurs. And the swelling of affected parts results in gross deformities. That particular organ will be deformed. If it is a lower limb, it gets deformed. If it is the genital organ, again it gets deformed. The genital organs also are affected by the filarial worm. In males, the scrotum enlarges abnormally. And in severe infections, fever will be produced. Now about the modes of transmission. This filarial worm is transmitted through the bite of female Culex mosquito. Do you remember the vector of malaria? They are female Anopheles mosquito. Filariasis is transmitted by female Culex mosquito. Now you can look here showing the life cycle of the filarial worm. The filarial worm is a digenetic parasite. That means it requires two hosts to complete its life cycle. One is in human beings, the other one within the female Culex mosquito. The different stages develops in the human body. Then it attacks or enters the lymphatic vessel. The larvae is known as microfilariae. It migrates into lymph and blood channels. Then during this infection, if a female Culex mosquito sucks the blood, the microfilariae enter the gut of the Culex mosquito along with blood meal. Within the mosquito's body, the microfilariae undergoes changes, transforms into stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3 larvae, and it will be stored within the salivary glands of the Culex mosquito. And during another blood meal, this parasitic worm or the larvae is injected into the body of a healthy person. Likewise, it completes its life cycle. About the morphology of the filarial worm, sexes are separate, that means they exhibit sexual dimorphism. The adult worms are minute, whitish, thread-like with tapering ends. Both ends are tapering. The male filarial worm measures only about 40 millimeter in length, whereas the female one which measures 80 to 100 millimeter in length. The filarial worm, its life cycle, you can go through this for further details. It shows the life cycle of the filarial worm. And an interesting fact about the filarial worm, there is a marked periodicity in the circulation of this microfilariae in the blood. They will be present in high numbers in peripheral blood during a 4-hour period at midnight, and during daytime we cannot see the presence of the filarial worm within the blood. And this type of periodicity is known as nocturnal periodicity. The treatment includes antibiotics such as doxycycline and albendazole formulations. Albendazole alone will not be a correct measure. It is treated with some other chemicals to provide a treatment for filariasis. And the prevention and control includes physical methods, biological methods and chemical methods. The physical method includes the introduction of mosquito net to control the vector. The vector is a female Culex mosquito, so it can be controlled by using mosquito net. Another, that is a chemical method, includes the use of mosquito repellents. DDT also can be sprayed. Then biological method is the introduction of larvicidal fishes such as guppy and gambesia to the ponds or drains. And the last one regarding the infectious diseases includes the ringworms or dermatophytes. Ringworm is a fungal infection of the skin in humans. You can see the diagram of a ringworm. The causal organism is a fungus or the fungi belonging to the genera Microsporum, Trichophyton, Epidermophyton. These genus causes dermatophytes or ringworms or ringworm infections. The different parts of the body affected by this fungi includes skin, nails and scalp regions. Within the skin folds of groin and toes are more commonly affected by the fungi. Can you say why? Because heat and moisture thrive in such regions, and it will be a very good or favorable environment for the growth of the fungi. The symptoms of these ringworms include the appearance of dry, scaly lesions on various parts of the body, such as skin, nails, and scalp. Lesions are accompanied by intense itching. Look here, you can see the appearance of dry, scaly lesions. Small lesions are present within this affected region. For the modes of transmission of the disease, it can be acquired from soil or from an infected person by using towels, clothes, or even comb of the affected individual. So please take care not to share all these belongings of an infected person. We are not sure whether the person is infected or not. So better to have a belonging of ourselves. The treatment of the ringworms include antifungal creams such as clotrimazole, and the prevention includes avoid sharing of clothes and towels, wear loose fitting cotton clothes, keep the skin clean and dry always, because heat and moisture favors the growth of fungi. Now we have discussed about various infectious diseases, beginning from the first one, typhoid, pneumonia, common cold, then the malaria, amoebiasis, ascariasis, filariasis, and the last one, the ringworms or ringworm infection. Some common methods that we can adopt to prevent the spreading of these infectious diseases. Proper vaccination. For various diseases there are vaccinations. Vaccines are available. You can make use of it. Then eradication of vectors. You have seen vectors are there. Houseflies act as vectors. The female mosquitoes act as vectors of various diseases. So eradication of vector is very important. Another one, sterilization of patients, articles and surroundings. After the person gets recovered from the infection, his or her belongings should be sanitized properly. Other articles should be sterilized. Then isolation. If we come to know whether a person is affected, he or she can be isolated so that the spreading of the disease can be avoided through contact. And the last one, another one is the maintenance of personal and public hygiene. Personal hygiene include keeping the body clean, consumption of clean drinking water and food. Clean water and food should be there. Public hygiene includes proper disposal of waste and excreta, periodic cleaning and disinfection of water reservoirs, pools, cesspools and tanks. And one more thing, we can create awareness among the different individuals, or education should be there about the modes of transmission and all, how they get transmitted from one person to another. First part of human health and disease, we came to the end of the first part. Now about certain questions. You can go through the questions and try whether you can answer it. What are the various public health measures which you would suggest as safeguard against infectious diseases? In which way has the study of biology helped us to control infectious diseases? Another one, what measures would you take to prevent waterborne diseases? Name the clinical test that is used for the diagnosis of typhoid. How does hemozoin affect the human body when released in blood during malarial infection? Do you remember hemozoin? It is released during the infection of Plasmodium. That is, it causes malarial chills and fever. Why is Gambesia introduced into drains and ponds? Name 2 diseases whose spread can be controlled by the eradication of Aedes mosquitoes. Define the term health. Mention any 2 ways of maintaining it. List the symptoms of ascariasis. How does a healthy person acquire this infection? Name the causative organism of the disease amoebiasis. List 3 symptoms of the disease. And few more questions are given here. You can go through these questions and try to answer it.